When it came to blading, Rick, not to go into the art or the details and all that, but you're a guy who wore the blade on the finger. I always like
Mm-hmm.
mine on my
Yep,
left wrist.
Art Nielsen taught me that in Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay, I was always a guy like if it's gonna get some color in a big pay-per-view or whatever, man, I'd carry my blade on my left wrist. I'd carry it
Yeah,
back up on my right wrist, and I might give if it was super important, I'd give the referee a third. How did
yeah, of
Art
course.
Nielsen break your system down for you? Because I remember the night before I walked out on the WWF. It was going to be Atlanta TV taping, and you and I were working in a steel cage in Columbus, Georgia, and you got color that night, and you was wearing that blade. So I got a
Oh, I
couple of little
know.
scratch
And I
marks
got a
on
lot of
it.
heat the next day
You
for not
did.
telling you weren't coming.
I thought I was working. I thought I was working with Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, then I had to work. Then I had to. Of course, I cut you a couple times, right?
Yeah, it was an
Yeah,
accident. It
I
was
know.
funny though. I was like a
Because
kid in a candy
if I
shop.
don't, if I haven't, when I don't do it all the time,
Yeah,
I used to make them so big that if I don't keep the shield on it, and the shield's hard to keep on it.
right.
And I'm sure I used to Nick Garvin too, but he deserved it, not you.
Did you tape it to your pointing finger?
Yeah, you know what? I've taped my fingers for years, both hands,
Yes.
and I keep it on my index finger. Yeah.
So why
But I
did Art
taped the
Nilsson
finger
teach you
next
this
to it too.
style? Out of all the different styles, why did this one?
It's just the way a guy taught me one night, 1974, and wrote a guy named Art Nielsen. You know, they wanted me, and I had no idea what they were talking about. They said, you know, they want you to, you know, and the guy goes to me, "You're going to learn this business, kid. Red is green." And I was little Pete Potts, little Roanoke, Virginia, 300 people, and I said, "No problem, man. Just show me how to do it." The rest is history. I've been making them for guys for 40 years.
What is your technique to making them? I always took one of the old school razors that you know would
No,
put.
I got to have a Johnson, the old Johnson pack, a white, they come in a white
Yeah,
cardboard box.
the rectangular kind that you would put in an old school shaver. It's got a single edge on each side.
Exactly. And what I do, I break it in half, and then I take a scissors and cut it quarters.
Right.
And I got to have a quarter off the right side where the blade is coming towards me.
Well, the way I like to make mine was do the same thing. I'd take that same blade, turn it longways, cut it once down the middle, and then I'd take one of the edges, and then I'd go with, at an angle to get my point, and then I would adjust the length by trimming off the back side. Then I would get my athletic tape, stick it through the athletic tape, and kind of make a depth gauge. And there I would make my pull tab, and I'd tape my wrist and then put it on top of that.
You know, I got to be superstitious. I had to have Johnson and Johnson. If I didn't have Johnson tape, I was superstitious.
Really?
Yeah, and I just always, but I would chase it down if I had to. You know, you get little superstition things about yourself in the business. And
well, what am I doing?
I had to have the Gillette blades, and I had to have the Johnson tape.
Well, I was a guy that when I was getting dressed, I always had to put my right boot on first. If I didn't put that right boot on first and lace it up, it was going to be, well, I mean, it never happened. That was the way my system must go down. And then I'd start taping my left wrist.
We all experience stuff like that, those things we do.
What other habits did you have then?
Well, I used to hand my phone to a referee all the time and say, make sure no chicks are calling me in case something happens.